Chapter 1. A Small Town Dreamer. It was the year 1975, a time of change for the world, but in a small town in Ohio, life moved quietly, as if untouched by time. The main street stretched only a few blocks long, lined with old shops whose signs had faded under the sun. There was a little diner glowing with pink neon lights each night, and across the street, the faint smell of gasoline drifted from a nearby station. At the end of that street stood a small wooden house where a young woman named Sarah Miller lived. Sarah had just turned 20. She had green eyes like summer leaves after the rain, and long brown hair often tied loosely with a white ribbon. Her family was not rich. Her father worked as a mechanic at the gas station, and her mother served food at the local diner. Yet their home was filled with laughter, warmth, and the comforting scent of apple pie. They didn't have much, but they had love, and that made all the difference. In the evening, Sarah would sit in her small bedroom and listen to her record player spin the Beatles. Paul McCartney's voice blended with the sound of raindrops tapping on the window, carrying her imagination far beyond her little town. She dreamed of walking through the busy streets of New York, of seeing bright city lights, of hearing live music in places where people talked about freedom and dreams. Then she would smile softly to herself, thinking that perhaps dreams were meant to make life feel a little more beautiful. By day, Sarah helped her mother at Daisy's Diner, the heart of the town. It wasn't big, but it was cozy. The smell of roasted coffee filled the air, spoons clinked against cups, and the jukebox played songs that everyone knew by heart. Sarah loved that place. She loved watching people talk, laughing over their meals. Every time someone dropped a coin into the jukebox, the sound of an old tune brought a little life into the diner's worn walls. She often felt as though she were living inside dozens of small, simple stories, each one filled with its own quiet meaning. Sarah had a habit of watching through the window when things slowed down. From there, she could see the town's main street, a place where the same faces passed by every day. In the late afternoons, the golden light of the setting sun painted the rooftops in warm hues. The town was small, yet there was a peaceful beauty in its rhythm. Sometimes Sarah wondered if love could ever find its way to a simple girl like her, a girl who had never left her hometown, who only knew the melodies of Let It Be and the taste of her mother's weekend apple pie. Her father was a quiet man with kind eyes. He often told her, "Sweetheart, what matters isn't how far you go in life. It's whether you're happy where you are." Sarah always smiled when he said that, though deep down she still held on to her unspoken dreams. She loved her family, she loved her town, yet somewhere in her heart she longed for something more. She wanted to see beyond the horizon, to fall in love, to feel alive in a way that only love could bring. On summer nights, after finishing her shift, Sarah liked to walk by the small lake at the edge of town. The moonlight shimmered on the still water, and the cool breeze carried the sound of distant music from a radio somewhere across the shore. Sometimes she would hum softly along, her voice barely above a whisper. No one heard her, but for Sarah it was enough. It was freedom. Everyone in town liked Sarah. People often said she had the gentlest smile in Daisy's Diner. Children loved her because she always slipped them a piece of candy. The elderly liked her for her kind words and patient ear. And the young men, well, they admired her from afar, too shy to speak to her. Sarah's beauty wasn't loud or showy. It was quiet, the kind that stayed in people's hearts long after she passed by. One late afternoon in early June, as the sun dipped low and painted everything in gold, Sarah was clearing a table when a blue sports car stopped outside the diner. The door opened and a young man stepped out. He wore a crisp white shirt, gray slacks, and polished shoes. His dark hair caught the sunlight, and there was a calm confidence in his eyes, the kind of look that came from being well-liked and well-off. Sarah noticed him immediately. For a moment, her heart skipped a beat. The stranger looked around and chose a seat by the window, the same spot where Sarah often sat during her breaks. "A cup of black coffee and a slice of apple pie, please," he said, his voice deep and warm. Sarah nodded, trying to stay composed, though her hands trembled slightly as she poured the coffee. The young man smiled at her, a gentle smile that made her chest tighten. "Thank you," he said. "Do you work here often?" Since last year, Sarah replied softly. The diner belongs to a friend of my mom's, so I help out. I'm Michael Thompson, he said, offering his hand. My family lives up on Willow Hill. Sarah paused. She recognized the name. The Thompsons were the wealthiest family in town, owners of the big car dealership near the center. She hesitated for a moment, but then shook his hand, her cheeks turning pink. I'm Sarah Miller. That's a lovely name, Michael said, smiling. Sarah, it sounds pure. Sarah laughed lightly, avoiding his gaze, though she could feel the warmth rising in her face. Something about his voice made her feel unexpectedly comfortable, as if they'd met before in another life. When Michael left the diner, Sarah found herself standing by the window, watching as the afternoon light brushed his hair with gold. She didn't know why, but something inside her stirred, a quiet, glowing feeling that told her life, from this moment on, might never be quite the same again.